bow tips. It sort of goes back to last week a little bit, and it's about having the right tool for the right job. And I graciously got some samples here. I don't know if we can do the overhead on this one, where this is a Kimberbell Bench Buddies pattern. And this particular person did exactly what she was told to do via the instructions. She cut her fabric out because they wanted it to go in the hoop. She put a cutaway stabilizer on it. And in addition to that, because she's been watching the show, she actually added some of this iron-on fusible, woven fusible. Put it all in the hoop and started stitching. Now, don't pay attention to this because that's what happens when you walk away from your machine. We all know as soon as you walk away, something bad happens. But the problem that she had, and I had to agree with her, is there are way too many puckers. And how come? I don't expect these kind of puckers with a Kimberbell pattern. So she was extremely frustrated.
Can puckers be a result of the digitizing?
They can be. But there's also a lot of other, which
I know
is
there's
people's
lots
first
of-
reaction is the program. Now, I looked at the program, and it's true, I would have digitized some of this differently. There's a lot of digitizing of stitches over stitches. There's a lot, it's very dense, just by looking at it. The flowers are on top of flowers, on top of basket outlines. So there's a lot of stitching through stitches. That's never something you like to see. You'd like to avoid that. But on top of that, her needle was too large for this project.
Was she using a 9014?
Yes. And these results are not good enough for her, nor are they good enough for me. And nor would they be good enough for Kimberbell. Can you see the puckers on the screen?
I mean, you can see them. I mean, they're right there.
Maybe if I change the angle.
I mean,
this has been pressed and pressed and pressed, so they aren't pressing out. See around the baskets and the flowers? There. Say thank you, Eddie. Perfect. See that? Yeah. That's not cool. That is not the kind of workmanship our machines can deliver. That's not the kind of workmanship that Kimberbell can deliver. Brent's smiling at me because he says...
That's the kind of work that I would deliver. I'd be like, you're lucky you got this out of me.
No. So to the drawing board we went. And she made several attempts. This is another attempt where she said, well, maybe if I cut away some of the stabilizer, it'll loosen up and I won't have as many wrinkles. And maybe if I don't hoop the fabric. And so she tried again, and truthfully, the results were a little bit better, but they still were subpar. You're wrinkling your nose. You agree this is too wrinkly? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I thought you were giving me that.
You thought I had somebody else? You thought I had somebody else on my side?
So Becky gets involved because I'm thinking there's got to be a better way.
And you can't leave D out in the cold.
I didn't use her name.
I didn't either. I used her initial.
Okay.
It's like when that Winnie the Pooh cartoon.
So we do a little research. Now, granted, she did ask me to change the design a little bit, because and I agreed with her. Let's see how I can do this. See how these has 3 separate baskets? 1, 2, 3. And they weren't the same distance apart. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Well, that bothered us. We wanted our baskets to be equal distance apart. If I'm hanging them in my sunroom, I'm hanging them the same distance apart. The other thing is we thought the flowers on this basket weren't as beautiful as the flowers on the other 2 baskets. But we liked the basket. So we kept the basket, and we took these flowers, and we flipped them so they trailed down, and then we separated the baskets so that they were equal distance apart. So we customized it. So we did make those changes, but that's not what.
I don't know. I think I like them better uneven.
Okay, well, that's because that's you.
I'm not,
I know, it's
I'm
okay.
Not, I'm not being judgy.
Obviously, somebody
I'm
else
just
does
saying.
too, because that's how it was made.
I think it's a perspective issue because
I,
it gives
I
that
also was disenchanted with how far the H bit into the S and the I and the N, because these were fully stitched, and then the pink was on top of the brown, was fully stitched lettering on top of lettering. So that bothered us a little bit too. So we also took our lettering down a tad.
Is this an old design?
It is.
So she's gotten better, basically. This is her.
She's gotten really better.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, so Becky says, it's going to be a bench pillow. I always like it when we add a little bit of batting when we're doing pillows. I like to give it a little bit of extra foof on the front face. So we added
Is
some.
foof like an actual word, or did you just make that up?
Becky word.
So we added some batting.
Is that with a double O or a U?
Listen to the success story here. We ironed on our woven stabilizer, added our batting, and used our cutaway mesh.
Did you prep your fabric as well?
Oh, by the way, all of this fabric was beautifully prepped. That's the first thing I asked her when she had puckers.
And it was still puckering like that?
Yes,
Okay,
it was
even I would say,
beautifully prepped. Beautiful, like crisp. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah,
Okay,
no,
that
you
brings
can
out
still feel it
that
too.
brings the puckering to a whole new level when you say that.
I'm sorry, she prepped her fabric beautifully. So we added, if you will, this. That's not what changed the whole story. And she did it in the hoop. What changed the whole story is we dropped her needle size. I think to a 12, because that's all we had at the time. Now she has 11s. But I think the biggest change was we turned down the speed of her machine. And that's my big tip of the day. She was cranking away at full tilt, 1200.
That's a lot. I think it's 1050.
Yeah, and I want to tell you, we know our machines can do that. We know they can. But that doesn't mean they should be doing that on every design. And when you have a design that's stitching on top of stitching and stitching, think of what you're doing to the fabric. That poor guy doesn't have a minute to rest. He's punch on top of each other. Now you're making them go faster. And I'm telling you what, you can see the needle holes here. And I know you don't like me saying this about needles, but you can see the needle holes in this one. You can in this one. She slowed it down to 600. And the difference is amazing.
And I find 600 to be the sweet spot because
It's
I think
night and day. And my turbo tip is, don't forget the speed of your machine.
yeah, and 600 is a good
And the
speed.
size of your needle.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you get below 600, like 300, it takes forever to stitch stuff out. But I don't
Right.
know that you gain much from the 600 to the 300. But there is a lot to be gained in quality, I think, from down to about 600.
This
yeah.
proves it.
Oh yeah, I'm not
This
saying
is
yeah.
amazing. This is an amazing difference in quality.
I think it's just the fabric. I mean, the purple fabric just
No,
saved it.
it isn't the purple fabric.
Well, the batting. Yeah, I think that.
Well, I did a sample without the batting too, but I got to tell you what I like about the batting, and this is what's that batting I always use?
Battle
80-20.
the
It
80-20.
isn't Kimberbell's batting.
The Quilter Select, the Select Quilter. It's like an 80-20
80
blend from
80-20
Quilter's Dream.
blend.
Yeah.
I love that when I'm
Yeah.
doing pillows and stuff. It just gives you just a little bit extra stabilization and, to me, texture.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a pillow. I don't want it to be flat. And the little baskets
this-
popped right up with that little extra batting.
Yeah. And that
popped
batting
right
we
up.
actually have in stock. Unlike a
We-
lot of stuff that you hawk is like, I got to order
Yeah,
it.
No,
That
I
actually
brought
have
her
here.
a piece and I said, you got to try this. So anyway, yes, batting, and on this project, batting, it was yelling for batting, in my opinion.
Yep.
But number two, the needle size is important, but the speed of your machine, we can't always sew at top-notch speed. We can't. And it's an amazing difference if you slow it down.